Yeah, my name is Nils Michaelis. I'm from Accenture. I think the introduction has been made, and I'm very happy to come after that presentation because a lot of the things that I will be talking about, you will believe is true based on the capabilities that ActTrue also has. So I'll jump right in. I'm going to talk a little bit about the future of commerce, why it's arrived and why it's particularly big in China already. And then I'll give you a couple of examples around how some of the leading companies that we see in this field are actually taking advantage of this opportunity before I take a bit of an outlook for the next 2 or 3 years of what we all need to get ready for to making it happen. Is the sound a bit overdone here, or is it just an... I'm getting some feedback here. Okay, this is better. All right. But the clicker is not working yet. Is coming on? Perfect. So number one, China, the not to be missed opportunity. What do we mean? What do we mean when we talk about the not to be missed opportunity? Everybody knows it's a fantastically big market. Everybody knows it's a very advanced market. And if you just look at some of these numbers here, it's always connected, always engaging. What do we mean with that? 56% of the Chinese population claim or have actually bought something online. And not just that, but a lot of that has actually happened via their mobile phones. So about 55% have already done a purchase over their mobile phone. So it's not just about enabling mobile, but it's really mobile first these days. A lot of the urban consumers already have a social media account, and they spend a lot of time on social media. It's being used as a selling channel, it's being used as an information channel, it's being used for everything, it's being used to power our products. So what do we see? It's really a seamless shopping experience that the Chinese consumers are looking for. So it's about saving time and making your life easier. So these expectations are really creating a dynamic marketplace that's evolving even faster than our own behavior. So technology is no longer the limiting factor, it's actually us adapting to the behavior of the consumers that's keeping us from taking some of this business. So it's a huge opportunity for consumer packaged goods companies to capture that. But they must move now, because as you all know, there are a couple of very dominant players in the market that are taking the field. There's a question of how can you better engage your customers, how can you really stay on top of also your brand perception, the brand relationship that you have, and the customer that you are going to serve. So what is it looking like today? If we look on the left side, it's still a little bit traditional. There's still a shopping cart out there. I still make a shopping list when I go shopping. There's a little bit about value, convenience. It's really still about price and getting the product that I want. It's still a chore. So I don't enjoy some of the shopping that I do. It's really just a chore. There's a couple of things where I explore that's more fun. Where is tomorrow? And that's just really down the road. It's about smart and enhanced shopping. It's giving me what I want when I need it. So my shopping list is already on my smart device. I always get expert guidance when I need it. It's at the push of a button. It's really becoming a more of a fun adventure. So it's a shopping journey that is tailored to my need. And what is going to happen after tomorrow, so literally next weekend already, we sometimes call it nirvana. It's giving you what you want before you need it. And we all read about Amazon predicting what kind of products will be served next, and that is happening. We see Tesco making big investments into technology which is called IFTTT, if this, then that, and I'll come to that a bit later. It's about creating really a different shopping style. It's the smart lifestyle. It's all about integration. We call it the death of the shopping list. There will no longer be a shopping list that you need to make your purchases. So it's already getting automated, and I choose what's automated. It's basically, if this is happening in my fridge, then you do that. If I'm in the store and this price is going down, then you do that with my shopping cart. And it's about all this learning and living services that I'll come to a bit later. It's really becoming an automated task. It's integrated into life's moments. It's all becoming very, very seamless. What is it really that Chinese consumers are looking for? On the one hand, they're saying, I want a solution to a real-life problem. I sometimes need that expertise. I need that assistance. I want to master my household chores, but I want somebody to help me do that. So on the one hand, we're hearing a lot about this, give me a solution to a real-life problem. The other one is seamless shopping. So how can I not worry about quality anymore? How can I really make sure that that brand promise that is there is actually delivered, and that it's delivered on time to where I need it to be delivered? Then we talk about personalized and niche. So I want to have products that are more tailored to what I'm doing. For all of you who have seen the panels yesterday, it was all about life science already tailoring the drugs based on my own DNA. So how many milligrams of a particular thing do I actually need? The same is happening in food. It's all about tailoring, personalizing, making me feel special. Just like a lot of the websites, a lot of the shopping sites are already doing this. I recently saw that there's now a open innovation around creating the energy drinks or the drinks of the future, because there's one hacker who said, I don't want to eat 3 or 4 times a day, I just want to have one drink. So he created this personalized drink, and he's sharing that recipe online now. What are those 20 different components? And he keeps on updating that. So if anybody's interested in not eating anymore during the day, I personally take pleasure in it, going to restaurants, but if you're not into that, you can just have that one drink that this guy is sharing online and create your own. So that's personalizing and niche to the maximum. And the last one is really the power of the micro moment. So as everybody knows, the shopping journey has really changed. It's no longer a linear thing of informing myself, having a need, and then somehow fulfilling that. It's really about being able to fulfill in any type of moment. So if I feel like buying a song on iTunes right now, all I have to do is push 2 buttons. If I feel like ordering something on Alibaba right now, it's just a push of a button. If I feel like scanning a product and that gets delivered to me, it's just a push of a button. So it's no longer about having to make an active journey somewhere and getting out of that micro moment, but it's really about having it when I want it, where I want it, at an instance, and fulfillment coming with that. So in the end, if I summarize all of that, it's about having a smart assistant that will make shopping easier for us, that will take away some of the pain of traffic, of delivery, of carrying things home. It's really making my shopping a lot nicer. So China is the new growth frontier, and this is, I think, what gets everybody excited all over the world, not just in China, but everywhere. Because if we look at the numbers, just the population growth, the middle class population, 2009, there were about 150 million people that are called middle class or considered middle class. By the year 2020, that is basically 575 million. That's the larger population, basically, than North America and Western Europe combined have there. And by the year 2030, it will almost be 1 billion people that are middle class. What does that mean? That really means that there's a different shopping behavior, there's a different spending power, there's a different spending ability and desire. Where does that lead us to? If we look at the middle column there, in 2014, the China CPG market was around 350 billion. A couple years down the road, that's going to go to 560 billion at least. And I think always these numbers tend to be a lot bigger once we get to the year 2019, but conservative estimates would put it basically at saying it's going to grow at a CAGR of 10% for the next couple of years. That's going to bring us to about 560 billion. If we look at APAC overall, we're adding quite a lot, because we're adding 340 billion overall. So in China and the neighboring countries, 340 billion will be added to the CPG momentum. 60% or more than 60% of that in China. That is why the interest in China is so big, and that is also why the Chinese players are bound to win this game, just because of the sheer size of that market there. So what does that also mean? It means that it's going to be a very different type of shopping. By 2019, there will be a lot more opportunity to fulfill our shopping needs. So digital commerce in APAC is going to triple in the next couple of years. And that's also another conservative estimate, so I'm sure it will be much higher. It will also be the largest or highest share of retail globally on e-commerce. No other region in the world will have an average 20% for the categories on e-commerce. So that's 1.5 times the average global. And some categories will be probably 80–90% online by that time. Others will be a bit lower. But on average, we'll be seeing about 20% of all the shopping in CPGs being online. What does that mean in terms of numbers? And that's quite staggering. 0.8 trillion, huge number already, moving 3 times to 2.6 trillion by the year 2019. And a lot of that happening here, powered by Chinese consumers, powered by companies that are making their business or that have their home in China. What does that mean also? That means that companies will fundamentally have to change the way they do business. That means we have to do digital transformation. It's an easy word to say, but only 5 companies would say right now that they have really understood what it means. What does it really mean for me as a CPG if all of a sudden Alibaba is taking care of a lot of my fulfillment and my supply chain and my selling? What does it mean if people no longer go into the store and browse the categories and do impulse purchases? What does it really mean in terms of how I work with my employees? What functions will be inside my company? What companies will I have to partner with as part of an ecosystem? How do I differentiate? So only 5% of the companies that we've spoken to, and this is a couple of hundred across APAC, would feel that they have really mastered this. And that's probably also a little bit optimistic in that case, because who can really say that they've mastered digital transformation? So it leaves a big, big window of opportunity for all of us. What does it look like? What do you need to do to win today in the digital commerce? You need to adjust to a new path of purchase. This is something I mentioned a bit earlier. I was born in 1973. I was led to believe that there's really a linear path to purchase from getting some interest, and then the first moment of truth is when I make my choice of where I want to go and maybe what kind of product I want to buy. Then the second moment of truth happens when I go into the store and I actually pick up a product and look at it. And then the third moment of truth is when I take it home and I try it, and then I build loyalty. I don't think that linear was ever the case. It was just a little bit of an easy way to explain the way we used to do business in the past. What we're doing now, we actually have very much a never-ending circle or list of events that's going on. So it's about discovering at the same time as almost getting into a loyalty moment. So if I discover a product that I love and I engage on my phone or any other channel with it, I start to become loyal, because all of a sudden it's no longer needed to go into the store to become a fan. I compare. So these days when I go into a store, I might try on a suit or a t-shirt just to see if it fits. I've already made my decision at home. I've already fell in love with the brand. I've already fell in love with the packaged goods product. I already like what I'm seeing, but I'm going into the store to compare. Is it cheaper here? Is it cheaper in a different channel? How can I get it home? What's the best way to do it? When I consider, I'm always contemplating, should I buy this today or tomorrow or next week? Will there be a better offer? Will there be a different product? And then the purchase is just happening sometime anywhere along that circle. So you may not see it. All of these things are interconnected. And the most important word actually on this page is the magic or the might of the micro moment. Because if I can capture the attention of the shopper in the micro moment where he really feels the desire to make a purchase, then I'm going to win. The micro moment is the moment of truth of today. So if we can track, and my colleague from Accenture just showed a couple of things on here, if we have big data capabilities, if we know your location, if we know what you've been browsing, if we know what you're interested in, and we can send you the right type of message, if we can capture your attention just about when you are ready to make a purchase, then we're capturing that micro moment. It's about instant fulfillment. It's about getting to you when you need to be there. It's not about sending you a multitude of messages. It's about getting into your brain, into your head at the right time of day, at the right time of basically when you want to make that purchase. How do you do that? You have to capture the micro moments. It's about delivering unique experiences and doing it repeatedly. It's about doing it now. It's enabling the purchase decision. It's really delivering the best products for me. Don't get it wrong, because if you get it wrong for me once, I'm going to run away. And it's about being omni-channel. So there's no such thing anymore, and I don't think consumers talk about omni-channel. They just talk about living, and they talk about having products and engaging with products and reading about them whenever they want. So none of us have everybody here has a smartphone. All of our kids no longer call it a smartphone because they don't know any other phone. They just know the omni-channel world. They just know an always connected world. 6 things to make that happen that you should be thinking about. One is partnerships. In this world today, you cannot do everything on your own, or you shouldn't do everything on your own because you're missing a big opportunity. It's getting really seamless from online to offline, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. It's about hyper-localization, not just hyper-personalizing, but hyper-localizing, because everybody knows that the world is a very different place wherever you go, and that makes traveling so much fun, but you need to localize and adapt to the consumer needs and the behavior wherever you are. It's about making use of IoT, the Internet of Things. Everything is connected these days, everything is talking to each other. We don't always capture that data, we don't always do it effectively, but making that happen. It's about creating subscription models. If you have a brand that's powerful enough for consumers to love, if that's a brand that people want to engage with, try to take it into a subscription model, take away the decision making, just make sure that it's there when people need it. And it's about being mobile first and doing everything that you can do in other physical retail or on a desktop. Make sure that the relevant things can happen on your mobile phone. What does it look like? Here's a nice example. So CVS has understood this whole seamless online to offline or offline to online. They've always been about pharmacy, they've always been about photo printing. They're still about that, but people missed that initially when they went online because they didn't really enjoy the experience of just browsing a couple of products, not being able to drop their photos, not being able to fulfill their subscription needs. This is what the CVS pharmacy store looks like now. So it's really about having that feeling you're coming to the store like you used to, you're able to do the kind of things that you've always been wanting. What does it look like also? And Alibaba is doing a great job of this already. They're launching a couple of new products around it. Here's a company on the left side, Grabability. So it's taking a shopping experience, taking a shelf and making it feel a bit better. I have never ordered, I admit, I have never ordered vegetable online from any of the delivery services. Why? Because it never looked as good as it does here on the bottom left. So if I can start to choose almost the quality of the vegetable, the color of the vegetable, then I'll start doing it. There's a LATAM startup called Rappi. They also do, I think, a very good version of having that shelf brought to life in your own area. And this is going to really change the way that we do it. It's not about putting on big glasses or having virtual reality and walking through stores and looking strange. It's just taking devices and making it feel a bit more like you're in your favorite supermarket. Amazon, and this one has been talked about a lot. So this is a little button, it's IoT enabled. It's basically something that you put on your washing machine, and whenever you run low on detergent, you push that button, it sends a message to your iPhone or to your Google or to your Xiaomi, whatever device you have, straight into your Amazon basket. Amazon will send you a message saying, are you sure you want to order Tide now? All you have to do is click, and a day later, that thing is in your inbox or is in your is back in there. So you're taking away the brand decision, you're taking away that bulk purchase, you're taking away an opportunity to really go into any other product than Tide, because once this thing sticks on your washing machine, it's there forever. Kohl's is doing this now in something like Amazon Dash. We're doing with Kohl's. It's a product called Haiku. This little thing here is a scanner, but it's also a voice recorder. So when I run out of things, I just say milk. If I just say milk, Kohl's might not know if I want Paul's or if I want some other brand. They will make the decision for me. If I scan the barcode, which you see on the bottom right there, then they know exactly which product it is. But if my little child is able to do it, or if my little child says in here chocolate chip cookies, what are the chocolate chip cookies that actually land then in the shopping cart? So it's a huge opportunity to automate. It's a huge convenience factor for consumers because all of this goes straight into your shopping cart. At the same time, I think it's a bit of a danger also for CPG companies because you're losing a little bit of that brand engagement, and it's no longer about the packaging on the shelf and the amount of space that you get on the shelf, but making sure that you're top of mind with the consumer when he has that device in their hands. So it's a fantastic product. Take a look on YouTube also. Another one who has been at the forefront of it always has been L'Oreal. So L'Oreal is a company that even 4 or 5 years ago said probably about 90% of purchase decisions are driven by mobile phones already because people are engaging there, they're chatting about what cosmetics to use, they're taking some of our early apps back then to understand what product fits better. They have taken that, I would almost say, into perfection because now you can, as this lady is doing here, choose taking a selfie or just actually it's not just a selfie because it's real life image. Show yourself, say which kind of products you want. L'Oreal will make recommendations and it looks fantastically real. And even if you move like this or like that, the lipstick stays on the lips, it doesn't go over the picture. As soon as you start the purchase process, it's no longer about L'Oreal saying we're going to fulfill it all. In Europe and North America, it's Amazon that actually ships it. So L'Oreal says, we are going to engage with the brand. We are the brand that's going to engage with our consumers. We are going to own that relationship, but take away the pain point, just like Alibaba is doing here with all the TP partnerships. We are going to do the fulfillment with somebody else. So it's about having the right ecosystem, being relevant, focusing on the power that you have, which is the brand in that case. A great product that we designed together with Heineken here is the Heineken Sub. So it's a different way of selling my beer into the house. So in the past, you always bought a couple of bottles or cans, and you were a little bit at risk of also going to a different brand. So what Heineken has done is that it's a little bit like an espresso machine. They have said, okay, you can have a 3 or 5 liter keg of beer. You will always have the right pressure at home, and you can basically do your own draft beer. So that's already interesting. But on top of that, with sensors being so cheap, we said, why don't we put a couple of sensors in there? We always understand what's the temperature of the beer, and beer tastes better at some temperatures than at others. We always know how much is left in the keg, and we can always have an automated ordering purchase process starting. So now there's an app that comes with it, and you can see exactly, depending on the type of glass that you have, how many pours are left, and you can always see if the temperature and the pressure is right, and you can always just at the push of a button basically say, I want to have the next keg coming to my house door. So a strong brand making advantage of that, really saying, okay, how do I become the preferred brand, and how do I keep people from switching in the times of digital commerce? Another one that I really like, and I don't have this product at home yet, is Procter & Gamble, a very interesting company because they have always been at the forefront of innovation. I don't think anybody in this room is old enough to remember. They are the guys who brought us the soap opera because they needed a marketing platform. So in the 1930s, they created the soap opera as a marketing platform. In the 1960s, 70s, they started something called Casual Friday because they knew if I wear a suit on Fridays, I'm going to have to take it to the dry cleaner. If I wear khakis or other pants, I can put it in the washing machine, more business for me. Now that they're seeing the success of all of these subscription models and espresso, they have said, why don't we do that? Why don't we take a brand like Tide and we create a little machine that will do the dry cleaning at home? So here's a machine that is going to be viable for anybody who spends $500 or more a year on dry cleaning. You put your garments in there, you put a little capsule in, which obviously is only fitting to that machine, and after 10 minutes, with all these ionizing and other processes, you have a clean shirt, a clean suit, a completely dry cleaned one. So it's basically revolutionizing laundry the way that microwaves have revolutionized the way that we cook today. So all very, very fantastic things. The question that you have to ask yourself is, how connected are your products? So if we are looking at a world of IoT, products talking to each other, telling me when I need to order something new, then I need to be part of that. I need to make sure that my products get connected. Beacons cost maybe 30 cents these days. In 2 years' time, that will be 10 cents. RFID tags don't cost anything anymore. How do we get really in there? And here's 2 more numbers, which I think will be a lot higher by the time we get there. So there's going to be billions and billions of connected devices out there. Everything is going to be talking to each other. At the same time, the investment that will be going into IoT will also more than double. I'm sure it will triple or something like that, but IoT is going to fundamentally change the way that we're going to do commerce, the way that we replenish, the way that we order products. So that is basically the world of today. A couple more minutes left to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow we talk about the era of living services. What do I mean when I talk about living services? Living services is the result really of 2 forces that are in the market. On the one hand, it's the digitization of everything. So that's the topic I've been talking about, everybody's been talking about. Everything is digital these days, you can't avoid it, you can just make use of it. The other one though is liquid expectations. So my expectations are becoming very different of what a product is, of how I want to order a product, of how I want to consume a product. It's no longer driven just by the good old way of doing a supermarket shopping. It's now driven by the way Alibaba delivers, or on Amazon. It's about different industries blurring with traditional industries and really setting different expectations. So why should I order coffee? Why shouldn't my Nespresso machine send that signal to somebody? Why should I run low on any kind of a product that's in my refrigerator if my refrigerator is already smart? So the expectations have become very liquid. We've really advanced quite a bit. So in the 1990s, it was a bit difficult to do digital commerce because it was all about the web and internet, desktop-based, and the rise of companies like Amazon and Google. Then came the phase of mobility in the 2000s, everybody getting a mobile device. Companies like Amazon and Google very effectively changing the way that they do business, going into the mobile. But actually we see Alibaba, WeChat, Facebook, and others coming up and creating a very different way that we already engaged with the brand. So it was all about mobility. And the 2010s will be about living services. So living services, you have to think of is basically services that constantly learn about my behavior, who I am, what I need, and how I do things. It's about understanding my needs, intents, and preferences. It's about being proximate to my environment. It's not about always wearable, it's about nearables. Everybody's smartphone is what we would call a nearable. It learns so much about me. Depending on if it's in my pocket here or not, we can most likely tell if you're male or female. If it swings a bit more, it's in a handbag. If it swings a little bit less, it's in a pocket. So already we can differentiate there. But that's simple stuff. The way that Google now does things, and you look at the bottom here, they know my calendar. They know where I'm at any given point of time. They know where I need to go. So if I'm running late for an appointment, they can actually tell me before I go into the elevator, Nils, don't bother. You're already running 10 minutes late. Maybe better call your friend and say, we have to meet later. So they already understand exactly where I am. This morning when I was coming from my hotel, I was very relieved to see I'm only 1 kilometer away in a city that I don't really know that well, so I definitely will be on time. So it's about understanding all of these things, and Google is already doing a bit of it. But it will become more, because living services will really automate and our low maintenance decisions. Think of thermostats going on and off depending on who's in the house, not just if someone's in the house, but depending on who's in the house. It's learning long term and getting smarter every day about what we do. Obviously powered by data and analytics, sensor-rich objects. Basically the light bulb is going to be a sensor-rich object in the future. It's about environments, not industries. All of a sudden it's about my house. It's not about my food, it's about my entire house, it's about my entire intake. Why now? Because obviously connected devices are growing like crazy. Sensors have become very cheap. Everything is always connected, so network connectivity is not the limiting factor anymore. In some cases it still is. Being able to pump everything into the cloud and run the algorithms is helping us to really work better on big data. User experience and the way that we get use of this data, so the evolution of the UI, the user interface, is really one of the big fundamental step changes, and the consumer expectations. So the behavior of us, the behavior of our clients, of our customers, is changing the way that we are dealing here. So it's really the time of the moment to get ready for living services. Because it's going to, and I'll skip the video because I don't think I've got a lot of time left. Sorry, I'll actually skip the video. Sorry, I'm going to skip the video. I'll skip the video actually, because, or maybe I will show the video then. Okay, if we get a little bit more time, do we have a little bit more time? Then let's go ahead and run it. It's already started. So it's going to transform the way that we run our homes, the way that we manage our bodies. It's not sure if it's running or not. Technology is not always on our side yet. Here we go. Our families. How many of you have a WeChat group just with your families these days, right? How many of us just engage with our colleagues on WeChat? Our transport has become very different. So we're talking about the era of living services, where in the moment... it's really about your life picking up at any given time and moment. It's about these micro moments. Singapore Airlines has just launched the app that allows you to do it on the A350. So take your content with you, watch it whenever you're ready, keep it playing whenever you get back into your seat. It's really going to transform our entire lives. I'll just do 2 more minutes on our shopping and why it's so essential for everybody that's sitting in the room here. So if we think about some of the things that we've been talking about, automated ordering, getting real-time insight into consumers, so understanding where I am, understanding how I am doing in that moment, understanding if it should be decaf or not, understanding if my kids are happy and if they love carrot cake, why don't we get a little bit of that, what are the things that are at home already, what do I still need to buy. A lot of these things will be taken off my back, so it's going to help me do budget advice. It's going to do offer comparisons. It's going to tell me if something is on sale here, why don't I do 2 other things also with that retailer? If this product is happening here, why don't I stock up on it? And it's even interesting, and you have seen that, if we know where people are, if we know how people behave, we're going to do city planning in a different way also. We're going to say, okay, where do the shopping malls need to be? Where do the drop-off points need to be? Where do I actually need to fulfill? So it's going to be really part of a wider living system that we're going to see. So the food cart of the future is another thing, and I won't show the video now, that we came up with. One of our companies called Chaotic Moon, they trialed something in Texas. They said, let's just take a very simple technology like Microsoft Connect. Let's put it onto a trolley, and let's let that trolley, similar to a self-riding wheelchair, also be empowered. So all of a sudden, there's a trolley that's following me through the shopping store and telling me what I wanted to buy, and also taking me now to the aisles where the product is. So if I still want to have that shopping experience in store, I have a trolley that's actually helping me do the thing. It will take it all the way to my car, because I'm not going to get lost anymore, because the trolley knows where my car is, where I've parked, so it's not about finding this anymore. It's automating everything. You can check out that video on BBC and also on YouTube. Quite interesting, and definitely reality in a couple of years' time. So really a brave new world for brands. The one thing that you have to remember though, not every brand is relevant enough, not every brand is the one that we love enough to be in the top right there, where I would say subscription models are possible. The Dunbar number is a number by a British anthropologist, Andrew Dunbar, talking about how many meaningful relationships can we actually have in life. How many people can we engage with? We can move the same thing over to brands. How many brands are we actually going to have a real engagement with? Are we going to be loyal to? Are we going to be driving? And if you are going to be on that Dunbar map in the top right, that is going to look very differently for everybody in the room here. So if I just look at Mondelez products or Unilever or Nestle, the different brands in there, my map will look very different to yours. So as a company, we need to start atomizing. We need to understand the individual. We need to know exactly how we're going to serve that individual, get into the minds of the individual and serve his needs. Then we're going to be successful in the era of living services. We're going to have to make our brands really feel alive. We're going to provide just the right services on cue, not overpowering. We're going to build what we call aware platforms. We're going to be really plugging into our consumers, and they will be plugging their products into us. We're going to have to embrace co-production. It's not all about just having a brand, but we need to be together in an ecosystem. It's about digital treaties and alliances. It's really about engaging jointly. It's operating across our own internal organizational boundaries. I think that's going to be a very, very big one. And also being honest to ourselves, how much can we do, what should we be doing, and where should we be partnering with others. It's really about creating the living brands of the future, and that's the one that I want to leave you with for now. Thank you very much for your attention. Happy to take some questions also.
Any questions?
And the quick question is around some thoughts on your presentation, because you talk about how to interact with the consumers, but it seems like it needs a lot of investment for some small companies or companies with a limited budget on the medium side yet, what's your suggestions? How can they start from small and get to bigger?
I personally have the view that it's almost the opposite, because what digital does, it really democratizes the marketing event. In the past, if I wanted to have posters the size of Actru out on the streets of Shanghai, it would have cost me a couple of million. I mean, look at Times Square. Suntory, I think, already 10 years ago, they paid 15 million for the Suntory advertisement on Times Square. But that was the best way to really put a lot of brand building power into it. Would Suntory still do that today? Yes, it's nice to be visible, but if you're a smaller brand, you can have different ways of creating awareness. If it's no longer about spending millions and millions every year in trade spend to get into the retail shelf. So one scary thing is, and I was talking to one of the branded goods companies last year, and they said, you know what, in hair care, and if I look at traditional retail, my world is perfect. I know what my trade spend is doing. I have about 20% share of the shelf space in hair care, and I get about 33% market share. So I'm actually doing fantastically well. But if I look at what's happening on Amazon, there's maybe 12,000 hair care products, and I still have the same number of products available, but my share overall is only 4%. Why? Because all of a sudden it's not about buying myself into that, but it's about creating the right awareness. So I personally think it's being able to use cloud-based services means low investment or no investment into infrastructure, really paying as you go. An Adobe Marketing Cloud lets you pay per drink, basically. There's a lot of companies that will say, we do the marketing awareness for you, and you just pay for the outcomes. So it's no longer about big investments up front as much. It's also enables smaller companies, from my perspective, to make it happen. So it's less about big investments and having to be big. It's about being innovative, really understanding your customer, getting into those micro moments, and then being able to fulfill.
Morning, thank you for opportunity. Two questions. First of all is although the magnitude of the e-commerce is for sure significant, but in your presentation you did mention that it's actually about 20% of the total retail sales. So how do you see the remaining 80%? Is it going to be declining? Is it going to be increasing? Or and also how do you see the change that manufacturers are making into the e-commerce, applying into the rest of 80%? Secondly, when you talk about the future, what is the range of the time span that you're looking at? Is it going to be always? I mean, are we going to look at always the smartphone in the next 10 to 20 years, or is it going to be, I don't know, back to nature or back to basic or something like that? Thank you.
So I think the smartphone will be a less dominant, so I'll start with question number 2, will be a little bit less dominant than it is today, because a lot of these things will be enabled that we do on the smartphone in different ways. So we will have a lot of things integrated into our clothing, into our glasses, into different ways of doing things. So I think the smartphone won't be quite as dominant anymore. We'll have things like email probably going down even further. I'm an older generation, so I still use email, but the younger generations just use chat. So we might have different chatting forms. It might all be in my watch, right? So if I look at 20 years ago, if I wanted to do everything that I can do on my smartphone, I would have had to have a television screen like this, carrying around that, a ghetto blaster, 20 books, a typewriter, and I don't know what else, basically a whole stage full of devices. That's all now my smartphone, and it's only a question of time when those things will be split up into different devices that I'm using. So I think this is where you can see a little bit some of the watches that have come out now, taking a good step forward, some of the glass devices. It's early stages, but it's going to move much more to that area. On the 20%, I think it's going to be higher. I think there's going to be some categories that will be almost purely sold in digital commerce, so not just influenced by it, but definitely going through those channels also. And I'm talking about physical product. The rest will probably, and the question is, when do we stop talking about digital, online, offline, and it's all just commerce, right? So is it going to be a pure place? Will Alibaba still be called a digital company a couple of years' time, or will it just be one of the largest companies on the globe, as it already is? So I think what will change for the CPGs, they will need to adjust a lot more, like a couple of years ago, to say, okay, what kind of packaging, what kind of pack sizes, what kind of products can I be selling on that, I'll call it a platform, maybe not a channel, but Alibaba as a platform, Amazon as a platform. What kind of package size does that need to be so that it actually fits into their fulfillment systems easier? So a few years ago in Europe, the discounters became very big, and they kind of forced everybody to say, actually, instead of having a Euro pallet with 244 whatever units, we need to have one that has 300. And it's a completely different size and format, but that's the way we build our warehouse. So they forced basically the CPGs to say, if you want to be in our store, in our warehouse, you need to adjust to us, not the other way around. You need to have that ready packaging, and I think we'll see more and more of that coming into the online channels, also in the digital channels. And I think what we'll see with the advancement in production, we'll see a lot more things being tablet-based and different ingredients getting mixed for certain products. So we'll get rid of all of these bulky schlepping home huge amounts of bottles, but a lot of those things will actually going into devices as the ones that we've seen here. So even the beer won't be a 3-liter keg anymore that I'm getting, but will be something much smaller that then plugs into a different system.